The sun was just waking up when Maya started her work. She moved quietly through the big house, her feet making no sound on the shiny marble floor. The mansion was so large that sometimes Maya felt like a tiny ant walking through a giant's castle. Every morning was the same. She dusted the golden frames on the walls. She polished the mirrors until they sparkled like diamonds. She made sure every cup, every plate, every spoon was in its perfect place. Maya had worked here for 2 years, and in all that time almost nobody really looked at her. She was like a ghost, there but not there. Mr. Richard, the owner of the house, was a kind man with gray hair and tired eyes. He worked very hard, always busy with his companies and meetings. He barely noticed Maya, but he never yelled or said mean things. That was enough for her. But his wife, Mrs. Elena, was different. She was beautiful like a painting, perfect hair, perfect clothes, perfect smile. But her eyes were cold, like frozen water. When she looked at Maya, it felt like looking at a bug she wanted to step on. "Make sure you clean behind the curtains today," Mrs. Elena would say, without even turning her head. "And don't touch my jewelry box. Your hands are too dirty for my things." Maya always nodded and said nothing. Speaking back meant losing her job. Losing her job meant her little brother couldn't go to school anymore. So Maya cleaned, stayed quiet, and made herself invisible. That Tuesday morning started like every other day. Maya was cleaning the hallway near Mr. Richard's study when she heard a voice. It was Mrs. Elena, talking on her phone inside the study. The door was open just a crack. Maya knew she should walk away. Good maids don't listen to private talks. But something in Mrs. Elena's voice made her freeze. It was sharp and excited, like a cat that just caught a mouse. "Yes, by tomorrow night," Mrs. Elena whispered into her phone. "Everything will be mine. The houses, the money, the cars, everything." Maya's heart started beating faster. She pressed herself against the wall, holding her breath. "Don't worry," Mrs. Elena continued. "He won't feel any pain. Just a few drops in his evening drink. He'll go to sleep and never wake up. Everyone will think it was his heart. He's been so tired lately, nobody will question it." Maya felt her hands go cold. Was Mrs. Elena talking about killing Mr. Richard? Her own husband? "The poison is already here," Mrs. Elena said with a small laugh. "Hidden where no one will find it. By Thursday, I'll be a rich widow, and you and I can finally be together." Maya's legs felt like jelly. She wanted to run, but she couldn't move. Through the crack in the door, she saw Mrs. Elena standing by the big wooden desk. She was holding a small glass bottle with clear liquid inside. The bottle sparkled in the sunlight coming through the window. Mrs. Elena kissed the phone and said, "I love you too. See you after it's done." Then she hung up. Maya's breath caught in her throat. She tried to step back quietly, but her shoes squeaked on the floor. The door flew open. Mrs. Elena stood there, her beautiful face twisted with anger. Her eyes locked onto Maya like a snake looking at its prey. "How long have you been standing there?" Mrs. Elena's voice was dangerous and low. Maya's mouth went dry. I was just cleaning, ma'am. I didn't hear anything. I promise." Mrs. Elena walked closer. She was tall, and Maya felt very small. "You're lying. I can see it in your pathetic face." "No, ma'am, please. Listen to me very carefully." Mrs. Elena grabbed Maya's arm, her fingers digging in like claws. "You saw nothing. You heard nothing. Do you understand?" Maya nodded quickly, tears burning in her eyes. "If you say one word, just one word, to anyone about what you think you heard, I will destroy you." Mrs. Elena's face was now inches from Maya's. "I'll tell everyone you've been stealing from us. I'll make sure you never work again. Your brother will have to leave school. Your family will starve. Do you understand me?" Maya felt hot tears roll down her cheeks. She nodded again. "Good." Mrs. Elena let go of her arm and smoothed down her perfect dress. "Now get back to work. And remember, not a word. Not to anyone. If you stay quiet, nothing bad happens to you." Mrs. Elena walked away, her high heels clicking on the marble floor like a timer counting down. Maya stood there, shaking. Her mind was spinning like a tornado. Mr. Richard was going to die tomorrow night, poisoned by his own wife. And Maya was the only person in the whole world who knew. But what could she do? She was just a maid. Who would believe her if she spoke up? Mrs. Elena was rich and powerful. She could ruin Maya's whole life with one phone call. Maya walked to the bathroom and splashed cold water on her face. In the mirror, she saw a scared girl with wide eyes. A girl who had always stayed quiet, always obeyed, always made herself small. But now, staying quiet meant a man would die. That afternoon, while cleaning Mr. Richard's bedroom, Maya looked at him differently. He was sitting at his desk, reading papers, his reading glasses sliding down his nose. He looked tired but peaceful. He had no idea that his wife was planning to murder him. He had no idea that his life would end tomorrow night. Maya's hands trembled as she dusted the shelf. Should she tell him? But how? Mrs. Elena was always watching. And what if he didn't believe her? What if he got angry and fired her for saying such terrible things about his wife? As the sun began to set, Maya made a decision. She had to find that poison bottle. If she could hide it or throw it away, maybe Mrs. Elena's plan would fail. Maybe Mr. Richard would be safe, and nobody would ever have to know what Maya heard. That night, after everyone went to bed, Maya crept back downstairs. The house was dark and scary. Every shadow looked like a monster. Every creak made her jump. She pushed open the study door and turned on a tiny flashlight. Where would Mrs. Elena hide poison? Maya searched the desk drawers. Nothing but papers. She checked the bookshelf. Only books. She looked behind the curtains, under the chairs, inside the vases. Then she saw it. Behind a row of fancy books on the top shelf, there was a small wooden box. Maya climbed on a chair and reached for it. Her fingers touched the smooth wood, and she pulled it down. Inside the box was the glass bottle she'd seen that morning. The clear liquid inside looked as innocent as water. But Maya knew better. This tiny bottle held death. She was about to grab it when she heard footsteps. Someone was coming. Maya's heart nearly exploded in her chest. She shoved the box back, jumped off the chair, and dove behind the big leather sofa just as the study door opened. The lights turned on. Through a gap in the sofa, Maya saw Mrs. Elena walk in, wearing a silky nightgown. She went straight to the bookshelf, pulled down the wooden box, and took out the poison bottle. She held it up to the light and smiled, a smile that made Maya's blood turn to ice. Tomorrow, Mrs. Elena whispered to herself. Tomorrow, all of this will be mine. She put the bottle in the pocket of her nightgown and walked out, turning off the light. Maya stayed hidden behind the sofa for a long time, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her chest. The poison was now in Mrs. Elena's room. Tomorrow night, it would go into Mr. Richard's drink. And Maya had less than one day to decide what to do. Maya didn't sleep that night. She lay in her small room in the back of the mansion, staring at the ceiling, watching the shadows move. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that poison bottle. She saw Mrs. Elena's cold smile. She saw Mr. Richard falling asleep forever. By the time morning came, Maya's decision was made. She had to warn him. She didn't know how, but she had to try. A man's life was more important than her job, more important than her fear. But how could she tell him? Mrs. Elena watched everything like a hawk. If Maya tried to talk to Mr. Richard alone, Mrs. Elena would know. And then Maya's family would suffer. The day moved like a nightmare. Maya cleaned the rooms, but her hands shook so badly she almost dropped a vase. She made the beds, but her mind was far away, planning and worrying. Mrs. Elena walked past her several times, and each time, she gave Maya a warning look that said, "Remember, stay quiet." At 5 o'clock in the evening, Mr. Richard came home from work. He looked extra tired today, his shoulders bent like he was carrying heavy rocks. He loosened his tie and headed straight for his bedroom. "Dinner will be at 7, darling," Mrs. Elena called sweetly from the living room. Her voice was like honey, but Maya knew the poison hiding underneath. Maya watched from the hallway. Her chance was running out. Dinner was in 2 hours. That's when Mrs. Elena would put the poison in his drink. That's when everything would end. Maya's hands were sweating. Her heart felt like a drum beating too fast. She had to do something. She had to try. At 6:30, Mrs. Elena told Maya to set the dining table. Maya walked into the dining room with shaking legs. The long wooden table gleamed under the sparkling chandelier. The fancy plates, the silver forks and knives, the crystal glasses, everything looked perfect and expensive. Maya placed the plates carefully. Then she put down the glasses, 2 for water, 2 for wine. She knew which glass was Mr. Richard's. The one at the head of the table. That's where the poison would go. Maya looked around. Mrs. Elena was upstairs getting dressed. Mr. Richard was taking a shower. She was alone. An idea flashed in her mind like lightning. What if she broke Mr. Richard's glass? Then he couldn't drink from it. Mrs. Elena couldn't poison a broken glass. But no, Mrs. Elena would just get another glass. And she would know someone was trying to stop her. She would know it was Maya. Maya's mind raced. There had to be another way. At 7 o'clock, dinner started. Maya stood in the corner of the dining room, ready to serve food if needed. That's what maids do. They stand and wait, invisible and silent. Mr. Richard sat down with a tired sigh. He smiled at his wife. Something smells wonderful. Mrs. Elena smiled back, but Maya saw the darkness in her eyes. I made sure the cook prepared your favorite, roasted chicken with herbs. Maya brought out the food and placed it on the table. Her hands trembled as she set down the plates. She tried to catch Mr. Richard's eye, tried to signal something, anything, but he didn't look at her. To him, she was just part of the furniture. Mrs. Elena poured water into both glasses. Clear, clean water. Nothing added yet. She was waiting. They started eating. Mr. Richard talked about his day at work, about a big business deal, about how tired he was. Mrs. Elena nodded and smiled and said all the right things. She was a perfect actress. Maya stood in the corner, watching every move. Her fingernails dug into her palms. Any moment now. Any second, Mrs. Elena would add the poison. Then it happened. Darling, you look so tired, Mrs. Elena said softly. Let me get you some wine. It will help you relax. She stood up and walked toward the kitchen. Maya's heart nearly stopped. This was it. She was going to get the poison. Without thinking, Maya followed her. In the kitchen, Mrs. Elena opened a cabinet and pulled out a bottle of red wine. Then, looking around to make sure no one was watching, she reached into her dress pocket and took out the small glass bottle. Maya ducked behind the doorway, peeking through the crack. She watched as Mrs. Elena opened Mr. Richard's wine glass. She had brought it with her from the table and held the poison bottle above it. Just a few drops, Mrs. Elena whispered to herself. And it's all over. Maya's body moved before her brain could think. She burst into the kitchen and knocked a tray of spoons off the counter. They clattered to the floor with a loud crash. Mrs. Elena jumped and spun around, quickly hiding the poison bottle behind her back. What are you doing? She hissed. Clumsy fool. I'm sorry, ma'am. So sorry. Maya dropped to her knees and started picking up the spoons with shaking hands. Mr. Richard called from the dining room. Everything okay in there? Yes, darling. Mrs. Elena called back, her voice sweet again. Just a small accident. She glared down at Maya with eyes full of fire and fury. She leaned close and whispered, If you ruin this, I will destroy you. Maya kept her head down, pretending to gather spoons. But she had won a few more minutes. Mrs. Elena couldn't add the poison with Maya right there watching. Mrs. Elena grabbed the wine bottle and Mr. Richard's glass, still clean, still safe, and marched back to the dining room. Maya followed slowly, her heart pounding. Back at the table, Mrs. Elena poured wine into Mr. Richard's glass. Just wine. Nothing else. Maya felt a tiny bit of relief. But she knew it wasn't over. Mrs. Elena would find another chance. Dinner continued. They ate and talked. Maya stood in her corner, her eyes never leaving that wine glass. Then Mr. Richard picked it up. Maya's breath caught. Was there poison in it? Had Mrs. Elena added it when Maya wasn't looking? Mr. Richard brought the glass to his lips. Don't. The word burst from Maya's mouth before she could stop it. Everyone froze. Mr. Richard lowered his glass and stared at Maya. What did you say? Mrs. Elena's face turned red with anger. How dare you speak like that? You're fired. But Maya couldn't stop now. The words had started, and they had to finish. Her whole body trembled, but she stepped forward. Please, sir, Maya said, her voice cracking. Don't drink that. Please. Mr. Richard looked confused. Why not? What's wrong with it? Nothing is wrong with it. Mrs. Elena stood up, her chair scraping loudly. This stupid girl has lost her mind. Get out of this house right now. But Maya looked straight at Mr. Richard. Tears ran down her face. Sir, I heard something yesterday. Something terrible. I wasn't supposed to hear it, but I did. She's lying. Mrs. Elena's voice was shrill now. She's trying to cause trouble. Richard, don't listen to her. But something in Maya's face made Mr. Richard pause. He put down his wine glass and looked at his wife, then back at Maya. What did you hear? Maya took a deep breath. This was it. Everything she had been afraid of, everything she had tried to avoid, it was all coming out now. If she was wrong, she would lose everything. But if she was right, she would save a life. I heard Mrs. Elena on the phone yesterday, Maya said, her voice stronger now. She was talking about poison. She said she was going to put it in your drink tonight. She said by tomorrow night you would be gone. And she would have all your money. The dining room went completely silent. Even the chandelier seemed to stop sparkling. Mr. Richard's face went pale. He looked at his wife. Elena? Mrs. Elena laughed, but it sounded fake and nervous. That's ridiculous. This girl is clearly insane. Why would I ever? She has a bottle, Maya continued, her words tumbling out now. A small glass bottle with poison in it. She keeps it in her pocket. She tried to put it in your wine just now in the kitchen, but I knocked over the spoons to stop her. You little liar, Mrs. Elena screamed. I have no such thing. Then show us your pockets, Mr. Richard said quietly. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking. Mrs. Elena's face changed. The sweetness disappeared. Now she looked like a cornered animal. I don't have to prove anything to anyone, especially not to some maid. Elena. Mr. Richard stood up. He was tall and suddenly looked very strong. Show me your pockets. Now. For a long moment, nobody moved. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. Then Mrs. Elena's face twisted into something ugly. Fine. You want to see? She reached into her dress pocket and pulled out the small glass bottle. She held it up, and the poison inside caught the light. Yes. I was going to kill you. You're old and boring, and I'm tired of pretending to love you. I've been planning this for months with someone who actually makes me happy. Mr. Richard stumbled backward like he'd been hit. His face showed so much pain that Maya wanted to look away. I deserve your money, Mrs. Elena shouted. I've wasted 5 years of my life with you. 5 years of smiling and pretending. Well, no more. She threw the poison bottle at the wall. It shattered into 1,000 pieces, and the poison splashed across the floor. Maya gasped. Mr. Richard grabbed the edge of the table to steady himself. Mrs. Elena pointed a shaking finger at Maya. This is all your fault. You stupid, stupid girl. You've ruined everything. But before anyone could move, Mr. Richard pulled out his phone. His hands shook, but his voice was steady. I'm calling the police. Mrs. Elena's eyes went wide. The anger drained from her face, replaced by fear. Richard, wait, I didn't mean we can talk about this. You tried to murder me, Mr. Richard said, his voice breaking. You were going to poison me and take everything. There's nothing to talk about. He dialed the number and put the phone to his ear. Mrs. Elena looked at Maya with pure hatred. You've destroyed your own life, you fool. I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. You'll never work again. Your family will. Enough. Mr. Richard's voice cut through her threats like a knife. You're the only person being destroyed tonight, Elena. Not Maya. Not anyone else. Just you. The police answered, and Mr. Richard started talking. Mrs. Elena sank into her chair, her perfect face crumbling. The poison was on the floor. The truth was out. And Maya, the invisible maid, had changed everything. The police arrived 15 minutes later. Their car lights flashed red and blue through the windows, painting the mansion walls with colors that looked like warnings. Maya stood in the corner of the living room, her whole body shaking. She had never been so scared in her entire life. What if the police didn't believe her? What if Mrs. Elena was so good at lying that she convinced them Maya was crazy? 2 police officers walked in, a tall woman with kind eyes and a serious-looking man with gray hair. They looked around the fancy room with all its expensive furniture and sparkling decorations. "I'm Officer Williams," the woman said. "Someone called about an attempted murder?" Mr. Richard stood up. His face was still pale, but his voice was steady. "Yes, I did. My wife tried to poison me tonight. This young woman, Maya, saved my life." Mrs. Elena jumped up from the sofa. Her makeup was smudged from crying, and her perfect hair was messy now. "That's not true. I never tried to poison anyone. This maid is lying because I was going to fire her for stealing. I never stole anything," Maya said, her voice cracking. "Ma'am, please sit down," Officer Williams said firmly to Mrs. Elena. Then she turned to Mr. Richard. "Can you tell us exactly what happened?" Mr. Richard explained everything. He told them about Maya's warning at dinner. He told them about how Elena had confessed, about the poison bottle, about the phone call Maya had overheard. The male officer wrote everything down in a small notebook. Officer Williams looked at Maya. "Is this true? You heard Mrs. Elena planning to poison her husband." Maya nodded, her throat too tight to speak at first. Then she found her voice. "Yes, ma'am. Yesterday morning. She was talking on the phone. She said she would put poison in his drink tonight. She said by tomorrow she would have all his money." "Lies!" Mrs. Elena screamed. "All lies. Why would you believe a maid over me? I'm the wife. I'm the one who... Where is this poison bottle?" Officer Williams asked calmly. Mr. Richard pointed to the dining room. She threw it against the wall. It broke. The poison spilled on the floor. The officers went to look. Maya, Mr. Richard, and Mrs. Elena followed. In the dining room, pieces of broken glass sparkled on the floor like deadly diamonds. The poison had made a small puddle that smelled strange and chemical. The male officer took out his phone and snapped pictures. "We'll need to collect this as evidence. Don't let anyone touch it." "Evidence?" Mrs. Elena laughed, but it sounded desperate. "Evidence of what? Maybe that's just perfume. Maybe it's medicine. You can't prove anything." "Actually," Mr. Richard said quietly, "we can." He turned to the officers. "My wife said she's been planning this for months. She mentioned talking to someone on the phone. If you check her phone records, you'll find the calls." Mrs. Elena's face went white. You can't look at my phone. That's private." "Not if it's evidence in an attempted murder case," Officer Williams said. "Mrs. Elena, I need you to hand over your phone, please."
"No."
"I won't. You can't make me." "Actually, we can," the male officer said. "And if you don't cooperate, that makes you look even more guilty." Mrs. Elena looked around wildly, like a trapped bird looking for a way out. Her eyes landed on Maya, and they filled with so much hate that Maya took a step backward. "This is all your fault," Mrs. Elena hissed. "You should have stayed quiet. You should have minded your own business. Now look what you've done." "I saved a man's life," Maya said softly. "That's what I've done." "Mrs. Elena," Officer Williams said firmly, "I'm going to need that phone now. And we'll need you to come to the station for questioning." For a long moment, Mrs. Elena just stood there. Then her shoulders sagged, and she seemed to shrink. All her beauty, all her confidence, all her power, it all drained away like water down a sink. She reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. Her hands were shaking so badly, she almost dropped it. Officer Williams took the phone and scrolled through it. Her eyebrows went up. There are over 50 calls to an unknown number in the past month, many of them late at night. She looked at Mrs. Elena. "Who are you calling?" Mrs. Elena's lips pressed into a thin line. She said nothing. "Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent," Officer Williams said, But I should inform you that we will find out who this person is. And when we do, they'll probably tell us everything to save themselves." Mrs. Elena's face crumpled. Tears started pouring down her cheeks. Real tears this time, not fake ones. "His name is Marcus," she whispered. He works at Richard's company. We fell in love 6 months ago. He said if I could get Richard's money, we could run away together and be happy." Mr. Richard made a sound like someone had punched him in the stomach. He sat down heavily in a chair, his face buried in his hands. Maya felt tears burning in her own eyes. Even though Mrs. Elena was terrible, seeing Mr. Richard's heartbreak was almost too painful to watch. "So you decided to murder your husband for money and another man," the male officer said, writing in his notebook. "Mrs. Elena, you're under arrest for attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder." He pulled out handcuffs. The sound of them clicking onto Mrs. Elena's wrists seemed impossibly loud in the quiet room. "No, please," Mrs. Elena begged. "Please, I'm sorry. I didn't really mean it. I was just angry. I wouldn't have actually done it." "You had the poison ready," Officer Williams said. "You were going to put it in his drink tonight. That's not just anger. That's attempted murder." They led Mrs. Elena toward the door. She looked back at Mr. Richard one last time. "Richard, I'm sorry. Please tell them I'm sorry." But Mr. Richard didn't look up. He just sat there, his hands covering his face. When the police car drove away with Mrs. Elena inside, the mansion felt different. Quieter, sadder, but also safer. Maya stood awkwardly near the door. She didn't know what to do. Should she leave? Should she stay? Was she still fired? Mr. Richard finally looked up. His eyes were red. "Maya," he said softly. "Come sit down, please." Maya walked over slowly and sat on the edge of a chair, her hands folded in her lap. "I need to apologize to you," Mr. Richard said. Maya blinked in surprise. "Sir, for 2 years, you've worked in my house. You've cleaned, cooked, taken care of everything. And I never really saw you. I never asked your name until tonight. I never asked about your life, your family, your dreams." He shook his head. "You were invisible to me. Just part of the furniture." "It's okay, sir," Maya said quietly. "That's how maids are supposed to be." "No," Mr. Richard said firmly. "It's not okay. You're not furniture. You're a person. A brave, incredible person who saved my life even though you were terrified. Even though my wife threatened you. Even though you could have lost your job and your family could have suffered." His voice broke. "You put my life before your own safety. That's heroism." Tears rolled down Maya's cheeks. Nobody had ever called her a hero before. "You were right to speak up," Mr. Richard continued. "You were right to break the silence even when you were told to stay quiet. I owe you more than I can ever repay." "I just did what was right," Maya whispered. "Many people know what's right but are too afraid to do it," Mr. Richard said. "You had more courage in that moment than I've had in years." He stood up and held out his hand. "Thank you, Maya. Thank you for my life." Maya stood and shook his hand. His grip was warm and strong. Over the next few days, many things changed. The police tested the poison on the dining room floor. It was a deadly chemical that would have killed Mr. Richard within hours. They arrested Marcus, the man from the company, who confessed everything. He said it was all Elena's idea, but he had agreed to it because he wanted the money too. Mrs. Elena went to trial. The evidence was overwhelming. The poison, the phone calls, her confession, Marcus's testimony, and Maya's eyewitness account. The judge sentenced her to 20 years in prison. Mr. Richard kept his promise to Maya. He didn't just thank her, he changed her entire life. He paid for her little brother to go to the best school in the country. He gave Maya a new job as his personal assistant with a salary 10 times what she earned as a maid. He helped her family buy a real house with running water and electricity. But more importantly, he saw her, really saw her, as a person, as a friend, as someone who mattered. One morning, months later, Maya was sitting in her new office, a real office with a desk and a computer and a window with a view. Mr. Richard knocked on her door and came in with 2 cups of coffee. "I thought you might need this," he said with a smile. Maya smiled back. Thank you, sir. Please, he said. Call me Richard. We're friends now, aren't we? Yes, Maya said. We are. They sat together, drinking coffee and talking about the day ahead. And Maya thought about how one dangerous choice, one moment of courage, had changed everything. She had been told, don't talk. But she had talked anyway. And in talking, she had saved a life and found her own voice. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is speak up when everyone expects you to stay silent. Sometimes being seen is worth the risk. And sometimes the person nobody notices is actually the hero of the whole story. The end. What would you have done if you were in Maya's place? If this story touched your heart and made you think about courage, truth, and doing what's right even when you're afraid, then please like this story, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe for more amazing tales that will make you feel, think, and believe in the power of one person's bravery. Your support helps us bring you more stories that matter. Hit that like button, drop a comment telling us what you thought, and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss another incredible story. Remember, your voice matters. Your courage matters. You matter.